hear from Justin and JJ with Dapper, followed by Ben Moore, who owns this building and has a really cool purpose for this building. Where I actually want to thank him first for letting us use your building. This is awesome. From there, so Cason's going to tell us a little bit about Fun and what they do. Justin and JJ are going to tell us what Dapper does. We're going to hear from Ben after that, and then from there we'll do a kind of a fireside chat conversation between them, followed by question and answers from the audience. So first up, we'll hear from Cason. So come on up.
It's me state conference today. Is this on?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Cason with Fun. I'm a locally raised boy here in town. Went to high school with Mac. We started Fun just about a month and a half ago, and it was my brother's idea actually, and he took it to Eric Pedersen. He's kind of a big deal here in this town with the tech industry and what's going on at Dixie State and everything, and he loved the idea so much that we decided to make it work. So what Fun is we created a platform that makes it really easy for coaches and athletes to fundraise. So what we've done is the platform, it all works off text messaging. Instead of selling cards like these high school teams go around and knock on doors, instead of getting on the phone and calling people or emailing, our software works off text messaging. So just last night, we actually did a fundraiser last night, and how it works is we get the kids together for 1 hour. They come with a form with a donor sheet with as many donors as they can think of. We have a list of about 25. And so they come with their list. We bring in food, we bring in prizes, so we make it really fun for them. And we put up on a big screen a scoreboard. So our technology works with the scoreboard as we send the links to these girls' numbers. And when they send it out to the donors, it links their name up. And so every time they get a donation, it shows up in real time. So while they're there all together eating, sending the text messages out, they get to see donations come in real time. So it's pretty fun for them to kind of see the money come in. It's really easy. They don't have to call, they're just texting. What we've found to kind of make a difference is instead of us sending out like an automated message to the donors, they're actually sending a personalized text message to make it personal, and it's coming from their own cell phone instead of coming from us. So there's some other fundraising companies out there. I don't know if you've ever received emails from people, family members, that you get retargeted to like, hey, send a donation. We don't do that, so we don't remarket that. We just do it that one time, and it comes from the donors. And we're having quite a bit of success. So we've done 11 events over the last month. And the Desert Hills cheer team, they raised 13 grand last night in an hour and a half. So it works. It's pretty amazing, the power of influence of them just sending out a simple text message, and then it's up to the donor to click on that link and donate. So it almost works a lot like you're telling me Podium, kind of like how Podium works, or even like GoFundMe. So that's our goal, is to be a platform kind of like GoFundMe, where it can be self-serve, where anyone can use our technology to do any sort of fundraising. We are going to move forward into the political space and any other space, but right now we're focused on high school athletics right now. So Utah is kind of our main spot, and then we're gonna branch out into other states. But that's kind of what we're doing, and is that it?
Yeah. Pretty awesome. Okay, next up we're going to hear from Justin and JJ. I don't know how they're going to determine how they split up their time, but let's see if they fight over it. We'll have them come up there with Dapper.
Hello, everybody. I'm JJ. This is my partner, my lover, my buddy, Justin Bailey, guys. All right, so we are with Dapper. Dapper is a business consulting company, and the things that we consult on are internal tools and services that we provide. So we offer a marketplace of software, marketing automation, CRM. We have virtual tour software like Matterport, and so on and so forth. We also offer business services like digital advertising, Facebook ads, Google ads, Pinterest, TikTok, marketing, website, SEO, LSEO. If you don't know what these are, come chat with us. We'll tell you.
So I want to dive into how we even come with all this, right? Because it sounds like a lot, sounds super crazy, and a lot of times you sit back and look at it, everything you got to do in your business. A lot of us are just starting out, or solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, whatever it is, right? You have to have marketing. That's where everything starts. That's the ground floor. If you don't make the loudest noise and people know who you are, you never have a big chance of success, right? So with us, with COVID, it was a blessing. Because I was in the financial space, doing financial planning, doing retirement planning for Dixie State and SUU, and kind of ingrained into the traditional method of this is what works, right? Not thinking outside the box, not having to be forced outside the box either. And so with COVID and how everything started shutting down, people were scared of money and didn't want to move money. And the crypto, the new language and new financial structure that people are more ingrained with, that are open to moving money, doing stuff, it's not something I could do. I wasn't that expert for them, right? And so when I met JJ, we'd office together, I'd ask him the same questions, he'd ask me, and we're like, dude, what the crap? Like, his problem is that he was in the solar space, and so in the solar space, they were going door to door. That's no more. So overnight, his business was like, nope, can't do it, because no one's going online and saying, hey, I want to buy solar, right? Someone's beating on your door and forcing it down your throat. So, so when you look at this, like, our paths collided in a way that made it feasible to where my business wasn't the same, his business wasn't the same. It's like, dude, we were asking each other the same exact question. So, like, we want software. We want software to solve these problems. So we went and bought and purchased, invested all of our financials, all of our money to get this technology and the software. Well, guess what? Software will not answer your problems. Because if you don't know how to implement them, or you don't know how to use it, you don't know how to train on it, it's just a big expense. So, JJ and us on the military side, all of our executive team is all military. Well, they're former, we've got Apache pilots, we got, where's Kai, she's around here, like her husband, right? Apache pilot up north, he runs all of our business development. And so we have a very good core team that train. And so we have the technology, we have the software, and we're always training, always learning, always developing to help our businesses and our practices. And so how we operate is we go through and we automate your marketing, we automate your sales, automate your customer service and your fulfillment, and that is what Dapper does. And how we do that is honestly, it's really tailored to you and your business, your practice, and what your wants and needs are. So that's kind of the best way I would explain Dapper.
Absolutely. Thanks, Justin. And first and foremost, thank you to everybody who served or is serving in the military. Thank you. All right, guys. I could share more, but I'm a talker, so I'm going to hold back. But also, thank you to all of our clients here. A lot of our successes are because of you guys. A lot of our business comes from over half of the people in this room, and we're really grateful that you chose us as a company here local to St. George to help you and grow your business. So thank you to everybody here who's given us that chance and that opportunity as a startup here in St. George, and I can't thank you enough. Boom, 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 boom. All of you guys, we love you. Thank you.
One more round for the vets. These guys are all the vets. Okay, next we're going to hear from Ben Moore. He's going to tell us his story of entrepreneurship and how he came to be where he is today here at the Be More Complex. So give it up for Ben.
It's pretty awesome we get to do this under the flag. I didn't really realize that. That's awesome. So anyway, thank you to the vets. Appreciate it. How many of you, by show of hands, have been here before or knew that this place existed? Pretty good. Awesome. So this is a former Green Valley Spa. Not going to talk a lot about it. I know you knew the spa, right? Didn't know this part, but you knew the spa. Anyway, so I've taken a couple of notes, and I'm not going to get into a lot of it because I know we don't have a lot of time, but I think it's awesome what is being done here. I love business. I love creation. I mean, projects like this. This was a blast. It was fun, right? And I think that's a big piece of it. Having fun with what you're doing, right? And enjoying the process. So one of the quotes that we talked about, and we listed out there was present actions determine future results. And I'll share a quick story. So growing up, obviously I love sports. I think that might be obvious by now. Love sports, and when I was, I don't know, probably 14, 15 years old, I tried out for a basketball team, right? A team that I'd played with before, and I got cut. And it was hard, right? It was hard, and you've probably heard, heard things like, oh, it was political, it was this, it was that, right? And immediately, that's kind of where I went. Oh, I was the coach's son and this and that. But it's actually been a great blessing in my life because really it was on me, right? I could have looked at the coaches, I could have looked at somebody else, but had I put in the time, right? Had I'd been good enough the year before, but I kind of stayed there, right? I hadn't put in the time, I hadn't worked hard at it. So I love that quote because it's, hey, what we're doing now is going to be determine where we're going to be at in the future, right? So when you wake up in the morning, what are you doing? What's driving, right? And that was something that again, that was a hard lesson to learn. I wanted to be on that basketball team, but at the end of the day, I hadn't done enough, right? So what are we doing? What are we doing to determine our future, right? So anyway, that's kind of where we put out that quote. You know, present actions determine future results. So I want to focus on two words, and especially for these business owners, fun and dapper, right? This is something that we talked a lot about at the different companies that I've been with, and they're two words, right? And it's disruptive and defensible. Okay, so I want to focus on those two things, and I'll share two different examples. So the first company I was with was a company called Pacific Wireless. I was the first employee, outside of the founder. He bought a line of products, a company that had gone bankrupt, and he hired me to come in and run the company because it wasn't doing enough to support him. So I would walk to his house every day, and this is while I was still going to school at San Jose State. I'd walk to his house every day and run this company. And we started out doing these I was actually testing down converter chips to ship off to Australia. Anyway, we took it from this little company out of his house, and we basically evolved to something totally different. We pivoted, right? And we turned into where we were manufacturing these antennas for wireless internet applications. You're familiar with InfoWest here, right? So companies like InfoWest would use our products to deliver internet access. And at this point, we were just doing these antennas, and then they'd hook it up to a radio. And basically the way it was is the antenna would go on the roof, you'd run an LMR cable down into the home, and your radio sat inside your home. And one of the thoughts I had was we need to understand this market a little bit better, right? We need to understand what's going on. So I actually flew up to one of these internet providers up in Washington, and basically went out on installs with them. I wanted to find out what they were doing, right? How, you know, what their pain points were. What were the things that were very difficult for them? And one of the things that we came up with, that I came up with as I was visiting with these guys is, well, that LMR cable would run down from the antenna to the radio. There was a ton of loss there. It was expensive, and there was a ton of loss. So I came up with an idea, basically, to house the radio. So instead of running the LMR cable all the way down into the house, we would house the radio inside with the antenna, removing the cable. And then we'd run power over Ethernet to power that radio. So that actually disrupted the existing market. And that company, we grew it, and we ended up selling the company to a company back east, and then that sold again. But that was something that was disruptive, right? It was disruptive, and it changed how people were doing what they were doing. And it made it a lot simpler, a lot less expensive, much more efficient, okay? What it wasn't is it wasn't defensible. Very easy to replicate. Somebody else could design an antenna with an enclosure that could house the radio, right? So we felt like, and this is why we ended up selling the company. They obviously had grown very fast, but we sold it because we didn't have the engineering resources to take it to the next level, to own the software, to own the different pieces of it. So we were not very defensible. So we had a good run, and we're continuing to grow, but we either needed to totally shake things up and hire a bunch of engineers and take it to the next level, or we ended up selling the company to a company that was in the same space that we felt like was going to give us those engineering resources. Didn't work out, right? The engineers, they didn't give us the resources that we needed. We sold it again to another company, and that's when I left. I was, you know, we went from 15 employees to 150 employees to 15,000 employees. And I couldn't take it. So anyway, at that point, another company, this company called Ubiquity Networks, was just getting off the ground. And the founder reached out to me. He knew I'd been in the space. Reached out to me and said, "Hey, we'd like you to come out and run the business side of our company." And this was 2008, and the company had been founded in 2006. Anyway, I went out and met with him, and he talked about some of the products that they were working on in the same space, right? So it was antennas, but it was full on. They built it from the ground up. All the software, all the hardware, the antenna products, everything, right? Got me really excited, right? Because this was disruptive and defensible, right? Because we owned it. We owned the technology. We owned everything, right? So anyway, we built that up, and in 2011. So at that point, I think in 2007, I think we did about 20 million in revenue. 2008, we did 60-something million in revenue. And then in 2011, we decided to take the company public. Again, trying to raise profile of the company, see what, if we could get some additional engineering resources. I think at that point, we'd grown to about 200 employees. So anyway, we took the company public, and then in 2018, again, kind of got to that same point where, you know, it wasn't quite as fun anymore, right? It turned into just a regular job. You know, once you take the company public, you're answering to a lot of people, you're not as nimble. So anyway, that company now is right at, I think when I left, we were doing about 1.4 billion in revenue. So it had grown considerably, and we were, again, defensible. So the big thing there was, and we were also disruptive from a price perspective and a performance perspective. Okay, so one of the things that we did, one of the strategies that we took was typically what had been done in the industry was, you'd have an access point that would be up on a tower that would then relay to other client devices that would be sitting on individual homes, right? And normally what people had done in the industry is charged a fortune for those access points, right? They charged a fortune for those access points and then charged a reasonable amount for the clients. Well, we flipped that. Well, we didn't flip it entirely. We kept the client device cost low, but we also made the access point cost low. So the barrier to entry, there's very little barrier to entry for a lot of these guys, right? And the beauty of it is, once they put our radio or that access point up on the tower, there's only one other client device they'll talk to that, which was ours, right? So at that point, again, you're defensible. In order to change that, right, in order to take that out of the mix, you have to replace the whole thing. You have to replace the access point, all the client devices on everybody's home, right? So again, that was a way that we built in defensibility. So as we talk a little later on, right, I want to focus a little bit on that, right? Disruptive, how are you being disruptive, and what will make you defensible, right? As a competitor comes into the mix, what are you going to do to protect yourself, right? What are you going to do to protect your company? So that's, yeah, a little bit about my background. Now I'm just kind of more playing than anything, right? As far as just having fun with different startups. Obviously, we've done this, and I don't know what time is it. We have. I don't want to take too much time with it. Anyway, with this, I'll just tell you really briefly about this building. This building. So we ended up buying this building about 2 years ago. We had been leasing this space for Nets on Fire, which is this basketball piece, which is a nonprofit. We have 150-ish teams that play in our league, and then we do training, youth mentorship, leadership type stuff. Again, it's a blast. The energy in here, when you come in here at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and you see basketball and volleyball and these kids working hard, it's awesome. And we've got a great group of people that run it. So anyway, we bought the building about 2 years ago. We gutted it. This is, again, former Green Valley Spa. We gutted it, put in all of these quotes up here. And then we have a roller skating rink up here. We have Champions Cheer, which is cheer. We've got, I don't know, how many of you have been to the Grip? Right? Ninja Warrior, they've obviously done a great job. We have Acceleration, Shape Fit, Kitchen 435, the Loop. Anyway, it's just been a fun project. And at that point, I've just been working on different businesses. So that's a little bit about me. So thank you.
All right, one thing you didn't mention was all the proceeds of all the rent of the businesses that lease here all go to nonprofits that are local and help. I know one of them's Tan Streets. There's a few that they donate to regularly. So it's a really cool space. If you want to check it out afterward, go down this hallway. You'll be amazed at what you see. So, okay, now we're gonna have all these guys come up here. I've got a few questions. I'll get them to ask a few questions, and then from there, we'll open it up to everybody. If anybody in the audience has anything for them. Okay, so between you guys, talking about disruption and defensibility, obviously it matters a lot. We'll start with Dapper. One question that you guys would have, whether it's advice or something, some type of, maybe something you've been struggling with, or something you want to ask Ben.
The question was, what are we struggling with?
Something you're struggling with, some piece of advice.
Piece of advice. So, something here at Dapper is we're looking for a specific type of individual to be within our organization. And it's not just veterans, it's not just, people that align with our culture. So we're looking for people who truly can catch the vision of what we do. What we do is so unique, and we haven't found anyone, close enough to what it is that we exactly do to really grasp our vision. So we need to do a better job on our end in helping explain to people what it is that we do and helping them understand. And it might just be that we have a really complicated product and service and business in general, but how do you get people to grasp that vision?
So you talking about this thing on? Can you hear me? No?
I guess.
A little bit? You can hear me, that's good.
That's what I need.
There's that gray button.
How about now? There we go. So is the question about finding employees or helping individuals or potential clients understand what you're doing?
It's kind of both. You know, employees ask the same question and clients ask the same question. Like, what is Dapper and what are you trying to accomplish? Like, what is your vision?
Well, and I don't know, what have you done in the past? Have you done any videos? Have you done anything along those lines?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've done videos.
Yeah.
We had a two-paragraph explanation because it's, hey, we're trying to be a tech company meets a marketing agency meets an advertising agency. We consolidated down to, hey, we're a marketing consulting business.
Yeah.
And it just happens to be that our internal services, like they're in-house. So, you know, traditional business consulting company is recommending them and them and them, whereas it's, hey, it's here. And I don't like saying one stop, you know, because then they hear the jack of all trades, master of none. You know, there is a third sentence to that, but another day. But helping people understand.
So one thing that I always enjoyed and I always thought was important is a lot of times when you have employees, you know, they get laser focused, right? Like, I am in sales, and that's it, right? I think it's very important that they understand the business. Like, for example, at Ubiquity, I'm not an engineer, right? But I worked hand in hand with the engineers all the time, right? I don't understand how you're going to get there, but this is what we need, right? And so I think it's very important that we don't paint any employees into a corner, and they really buy in. They really buy into what you're doing as a company, and that entails getting to know what you're doing, right? And so I think whether it's through some form of profit share or some type of exercise that gets them to really understand the business and allowing time for that and letting them know, hey, listen, you are not just a salesperson, you are not just a developer, right? You are important to everything that we're doing here, and we need you to understand. I mean, it's so powerful when you can get an engineer or a software developer or whatever to really understand the market, because then you don't have to tell them what to do, right? At that point, they know, like, hey, this is what customers need. I'm not waiting for you guys to tell me what to do, or they can come to you with ideas saying, hey, guys, have we thought about this? Once you get that kind of buy-in, it's awesome. It's powerful.
Very enabling.
Yes, very enabling, right? And then again, they get ownership in that, right? They're pumped. They're ready to go. They're like, man, I did that, right? That was my idea, right?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sweet. Casey, what's something you've struggled with that you'd like some advice on?
Well, right now we're kind of struggling. These coaches, so me and my brother are the ones reaching out to these coaches, and these coaches get hit up so much by so many different fundraising organizations where we're trying to call them, we're trying to email them, and we don't get a lot of response. And so we're just trying to figure out ways to go about it a different way to get in front of them. We haven't spent any marketing dollars yet. There's a few of us that are as a part of the company, and we're all sweating it right now, so we basically put nothing into the business other than $500 for a business license. So we're just our struggle is kind of trying to take it to the next step of how do we get our experience and our software and show these coaches the true experience, right? Because once they see it, once I get them on the phone, it's an easy sell. And especially the numbers that we tell them with them doing nothing, they don't have to organize anything, then it's an easy sell. So that's kind of our struggle right now, and where do we kind of take it from there?
So, obviously marketing is going to help, but I think, one avenue would be, and we do this actually, or try to do more of this at the rink, the roller skating rink, is, right, find those influencers, right? And in this case, I think you're probably talking about players, right? If you've got, I'm sure, a ton of the players, hey, maybe present this to your coach. Maybe we can work out some kind of a deal, right, with you to kind of be the head of it here at Desert Hills for the next year, or, whatever the case may be. But those guys are in constant communication with the coaches. And I think, if I'm a coach and a player comes to me and says, hey, we got this fundraising opportunity that's gonna help provide for this, what do you think? I think they're gonna be much more open, right? And again, they're spending time with these people all the time, right? So that might be one option. Obviously there's getting in. If you, I think it's $1,000 or something like that you can pay to the school district and send it out to all the different schools. So that might be something you could do. I think it used to be kind of a paper flyer that they sent out. I think they're going to an email system, but anyway, that's one option. But I do think there's power again. Obviously, we know there's power in influencers, right, and guys that are in the mix already. So I think if you could get in touch with and have some of the key players on your side, I think that would help a lot.
Sweet. Thanks.
Awesome. Now I want to open it up to the crowd. Questions for any of these guys, whether it's about their business or what maybe they're doing to make it successful. So I don't think we need a mic, but if you don't speak loud enough, maybe we will. But we'll open it up from here. Paul.
So I have a question about competition. So facing competition, what are some things that you have focused on to do to really differentiate yourself? I took some good notes just in terms of being defensible and disruptive, but going head to head with a big player and you need to really make the impact, you're maybe on the smaller end, emerging. What are some things that you did to really stand out and ultimately win?
Awesome, good question. So, like I look at it, so Ubiquity Networks, we competed with Cisco, for example, right? They would be considered the 100-pound gorilla, right? And there's a saying out there, and this was kind of our motto. There's a saying out there that nobody got fired for implementing Cisco, right? Because it's just solid, right? And we took it one step further and we'd say, yeah, nobody get fired for putting in Cisco, but you may just get that promotion for putting in Ubiquity, right? And the reason for that is this, right? You're talking about maybe a $100,000 install versus maybe a $15,000 install or a $10,000 install. We were not bloated, right? We were not to the point where we had, thousands of layers and every single one of those guys needing to be paid. So we were very lean, and we did 1.4 billion in revenue, and we had, I think our sales side of things consisted of about 7 people, right? So we had distributors all over the world that were marketing. They were basically unpaid employees. They were paid because they were selling the product, right? But it didn't take us, having again hundreds of salespeople. Right? So we were very lean, and we focused heavily on the engineering side and making sure the product was just as good as you can get for that price point. So it opened up a lot of doors, right? And we kind of started at the lower end, like, hey, this corporation's not going to put in Ubiquity right now. We're not well known, right? We'll go to these small and medium-sized businesses and build it up. And I'd say we probably had about 70% of the features that Cisco had to begin with, right? And we just continued to chip away, until again, you get to the point where it's like, hey, you're maybe 90%, 95% of the features that Cisco had, but those other 5 or 10%, most of the companies don't need, right? And so started small, but we really got to know. I think that the key is getting to know the industry super, super well. Become an expert, and find out, about your competition and what you can do to make a difference.
So Ben, I'm kind of curious, like, what are your thoughts on partnership or sort of like merging with a company in like the entrepreneurial space?
Definitely depends. That's a good question. It depends. I go back to experience with Pacific Wireless when we sold, right? That wasn't necessarily a joint venture or anything like that. And we made a mistake, I would say. It wasn't a mistake because we did well, right? But we didn't have any control at that point, right? So you can have the greatest vision in the world, but if you don't have control over the resources and direction, you're kind of stuck, right? So that's what I would say with Pacific Wireless. We had a great product, and we built the company, and again, we did well when the company sold. But once we were sold, we found out very quickly that we were here on the totem pole, right? And so So it just depends. You know, there can be very strategic and great partnerships, and there can be very bad partnerships, right? And at Ubiquity, we never once acquired another company. And the reason for that was we always felt like we could do it better, right? And there is one thing, there are times when you can go out and acquire a company or do a joint venture that gets you into the market sooner and it works out. But I mean, you look at a lot of the major acquisitions and things like that, not too many of them work out all that well, right? I mean, Cisco, for example, they acquired, I don't know if you're familiar with the brand Linksys. I'm sure many of you have heard of it, but I mean, they acquired it for some major number and sold it for pennies, right? And I think you see that a lot. So I think it really depends.
Thank you.
And with your business, you do graphic design, correct?
Yeah.
So, but the graphic design is it's very personal to the business, their vision, and you're only one person, right? So to keep that value that you bring as a designer, I would definitely partner with as many people that can put the person that values you, your work, one-on-one in your hands. So I would, personally knowing what your business is, your industry, 100% recommend partnering. Because you're only one person. Unless you're growing a team or you already have a team, fastest way for you to be real with the two big players out there right now, like Fiverr, right? Like you don't want to be seen as Fiverr. You've got a better skill set than 95% of those people. So partnering for you would be huge. I personally, I would recommend it because then you don't have to be the salesperson. You just become the fulfillment. And if you can fulfill on time and your value's there, your product, your offer will get so much bigger and you will be more fulfilled in your work.
Thank you.
And we're looking, so.
Love it. We had a question here.
Yeah, so for the Dapper guys, you talked about how you kind of struggled implementing the software you spent all your money on. So what would you have done differently, or how did you guys kind of work that out to make it work for you guys?
The biggest one with anything, it's when you implement software or new processes, like we talked about it in the military and the teams and stuff, but when you actually have to be the one to make those decisions, it's a culture shock. It's a change. If you went and said, hey, we're not using Google today, we're going 100% to Microsoft tomorrow. How many of you out here would be like, oh my gosh, I am so screwed right now, right? It would happen. So when we said, hey, all of our team, everybody internally, we're using this software 100% starting tomorrow, and then everyone's like, crap, now what, right? So you have to build those integrations, you have to build those bridges, you have to build the training for it. So anytime you implement new software, I would say develop the training process of what you think you're gonna need to train on, because you gotta be adaptable, man. Like you gotta be able to shift, because 2 weeks ago, a couple months ago, Google was in every country, Facebook was in every country. As of right now, Rochambeau, who knows what's gonna be there tomorrow, right? So technology, like I'd go back and do it different, I would have the training and the processes whiteboarded out. I like whiteboards, it's old school in that method, right? But we'd whiteboard it out and say, okay, this is who's responsible for this piece. This is who's responsible for this piece, instead of saying, hey, you're 100% the expert, now train us. Like break it down, simplify it, and make a cohesive team on the training, not just on roles, responsibilities within the business. Who's doing financials, who's doing sales, who's doing marketing, right? That's by proxy of business, right? And we get pushed into that box. But I would break it down into, we got Dakota here, hey, customer service, got Callie, hey, customer acquisition, like, hey, teach us how to use this software, figure out a way, come up with a team collaboration, and then train us, and then everyone becomes up to that level. This is culture shock. Like everyone, I've transitioned from Microsoft, especially the military, like this old, 1990 software. Some of you guys are laughing right now. Like they just barely updated their website last month since 2002. That was after the invasion of Iraq, by the way. So it's very slow moving. So anytime you do those changes, have a plan to train on it. That's the biggest thing I would ever do different. Is go back and have a better solid plan. Hopefully that answered it.
Yeah.
I've got one right now. How are you guys finding good employees? Seems like it's an employee shortage. What are you doing different to find success?
Do you guys have any?
You can just ask this question if you want.
I love that.
So here's the best way that we've done it, and a lot of it, and it's kind of ironic because a lot of our staff and a lot of our team and our partners are here in the crowd, right? So we've been very fortunate by finding the people that have a good value system, where they have a vision. We find visionaries first. People that have a vision, and it's big, it's bold, and it's scary. It's got to be scary as hell for them. And we sit back and say, okay, we can help you bring that vision to life, and here's how we can do this, right? And keeping it simple and making it to understand it, and then allow them to embark on that vision and support them. So our employees, our staff, like there's probably not one person in our team that says, this is all I'm ever gonna do. They already know what they're gonna go do bigger. They already know that there's more money to be made, or there's more journeys to be made, or more traveling, more vacations, or whatever that is, right? They have that vision, and those are the people we've surrounded ourselves with in the first place. And so it's hard to say, hey, Indeed ad, Monster ad, this is the best person. Because a lot of times that stuff does not work out. Because they think it is something, and then they work the first 2-3 weeks, and then they realize, this is not what I thought it was going to be. That's not what my rules and responsibility is. No one told me I had to take the trash out too. You know, no one told me I had to clean out my desk, right? So when you look at that, it's hard to hire for that. So I would find people that's within your circle, find a way to incentivize them, somebody that has a vision, and bring them in. And a lot of times, we don't look at any of our employees as an employee. Like, they are our partners, they are our team. Like, I don't think we've ever really used the term employee except for the onboarding, because I can't change that name in the software, right? But that's about it. That's my
It's providing opportunity. So absolutely right. And going on with what Ben said earlier. So we provide more than just, hey, you're an employee with an organization. We're trying to build value in them to where they see that there's additional opportunities alongside what we're trying to build. A lot of our initial employees to date, we've started businesses with, side businesses, supplemental businesses, partner companies to Dapper, right? So they come in thinking, hey, I'm here to do, account work, or specialty work, or sales, or this and that. And next thing you know, we just, bought a house together, or we did this together, and we did this together. And we don't like dangling carrots and saying, hey, here's your opportunity cost. It's, walking the walk and showing them, hey, if we can accomplish X, Y, Z, we're gonna go do this together, right?
So for Ben, talking about defensible, if you deal in a commodity space, you see brands, Starbucks, Away with Luggage, Stance with socks. They deal in commodity space, but they built a brand in a way that is somewhat defensible. What would be your take on, if you are a business in a commodity space, how to make yourself defensible?
It's a good question. It's tough, right? I mean, it's if you can't patent it, if you can't lock people in, right? I mean, that again, we were able to lock people in through the software and some other things, right? Again, I mean, they could still get out, but it was going to be expensive, right? And obviously, you don't want to do that and then not have a good product, right? Because then you're going to have unhappy customers. At the end of the day, people didn't want to leave us anyway, right? We were good. But I think at that point, with some kind of commodity business, you've either got to be more efficient, you've got to be, you're going to have to establish the brand at that point. Because you're right, the brand at that point is the defensible part, right? I mean, you look at a Nike or a Starbucks or whatever, right? They've established the brand. And at this point, Adidas can come in and Under Armour. I mean, there's going to be a lot of players, but it's going to be hard to disrupt that. And so I think in a commodity space, it's definitely tougher, right, to add defensibility. But there's still definitely things you can do, right? You can make it much more efficient, right? If you find out what the pain points are for your competitors, like, gosh, an order takes 10 minutes, when we're standing in line, and it should take 2, or whatever the case may be. You find something that disrupts, and again, you'll build in the defensibility maybe a little bit later. You disrupt, and then that becomes part of your defensibility, right? So that's what I would say.
This question's for Ben.
Yeah.
So we've got some eager entrepreneurs in the room like Kason, Oreo, Danielle, and they are either starting businesses or they're expanding their businesses. Tell them what you're looking for and other investors are looking for when they're asking for money. Kind of those top three things.
Yeah, good question. And I don't know if now's the time to talk about it or not.
Yeah.
But we're looking at starting something along those lines that's a launch pad, right? That will help entrepreneurs either with funding or engineering resources, software resources, marketing resources, whatever they need right out of the gate. And so, but what do we look for? It's like anything. Like I try to liken a lot of things to sports, right? If you've got, for example, you've got a really good basketball player, but that basketball player never wins, right? That's probably not a guy that I'm looking for, because he's trying to get his own, or he's trying to, he's not a team player. He's not he's not going to do whatever it takes to win, to succeed, right? And so that's what I look for. I look at for somebody who's passionate, who wakes up in the morning and goes, man, I can't wait to get to work today. Right? I can't wait to make this successful, and I'm gonna grind until we are successful. And whether that takes 30 pivots, right? Oh, we started here, and then we just pivoted our way till we found what we were looking for, right? And what's gonna succeed. Those are the people we look for, right? And it's not a matter of like, hey, we gotta succeed in a year, or we gotta succeed in 6 months, right? What you want to see again is you see somebody that works at it and says, hey, we're running up against a wall here, but I know enough that we're going to shift just this little bit over here, and we're going to find an opening, right? So you just want somebody that's going to grind and that loves it, right? And again, we'll do whatever it takes to succeed. And we can talk more about that at a later point about what we're planning there.
What are some challenges that you've dealt with growing your business from ground up, and what is a mistake that most new business owners do that you can help them avoid?
Good question. Gosh, I'm just trying to think of all the different mistakes we've made, because there's many.
Got you thinking, sorry.
No, that's good. That's good. I mean, there really are a lot, and some of them are. Some are going to happen no matter what, just because of staffing, right? Like I look back at Ubiquity when we first started. Some of the stuff had been put in place before we arrived, or before I arrived, and I had some experience with it. For example, one of the things that was done is we basically signed a distribution company with a distribution agreement with a company in Italy that actually gave them exclusivity. And I'm not a fan of that at all, unless there's some teeth to it, right? Like, and this agreement had none of that. It was a one-page agreement that basically just said, you're exclusive, right? And so that was, one of the things that we ran into was, not having the experience. We didn't have a legal guy on staff that could prevent that. So I just think, I actually don't mind some mistakes, right? Because you're going to have some. It's again, what do you do with those, and how do you adjust, right? But that one, it took me. I think I flew out to Italy 4 or 5 times to work with this partner and finally get it to where they were not exclusive, or they had some minimum requirements that they had to hit for a period of time to keep that exclusivity, and eventually that exclusivity went away, right? The other one that we ran into is we hadn't implemented a software system, right? They were using QuickBooks for some of the accounting, and they were using Excel for a lot of their production and other stuff, and they didn't tie together at all, right? And I remember asking the person who was running QuickBooks and say, hey, what did we charge this customer the last time we sold them these cards? And they came back and said, well, we've never shipped them any of these cards. I'm like, well, I know we shipped them 10,000 of them like 6 months ago, right? So at that point, we had lost out on about a $500,000 order because we never built it, right? So, but that pushes you over the edge. I mean, immediately we started implementing a software system that would control that, right? So you're going to have mistakes, right? And obviously you think it through as best you can, but how quickly can you adjust is
sort of like a question for everybody. So like, what's the biggest risk you took that sort of like changed your life and brought you to the position you're in right now?
Biggest risk that I've taken is the day that I valued my family over my further commitments in my career. So I was deployed a couple times, came back, and one day I showed up at my house and I said, I'm out. And my wife's like, what are you talking about? I was like, I'm out in 30 days. I did enough research that I found out Dixie State is the only university in Utah that can't accept students. They have to accept you regardless of financials or anything else. So I did a school drop. I was out in 30 days, put a house up for sale, and I sold it the next day. No job, no home, knew nobody here, and I was like, this is where we're gonna live. So I moved from Colorado to here, from Idaho originally, knew nobody down here. First two people I worked with was my real estate agent and a loan officer. So I look at that as making a move to where I wanna be and how I wanted to raise my kids. I wanted to raise my kids somewhere that had a value system in place. Like Utah is very, very big on value systems and fundamentals. So that would be my risk, is just picking up and moving, because I needed change. I needed something that could be constant for my family. And I found it here. And I found it with the community, with business owners, with the families, anyone that's around here. I'm very happy with that. So that was my risk. I didn't have a job. I had nothing. So I took all my financials, all my money, and I invested it into my first business. Guess what? I didn't know what the crap that business was. So I lost all that money too. But that is also my first risk. So that's mine. Anybody else?
Mine's along the same lines as putting all your money into investments, real estate. Me and my wife decided to put all of our money in different type of investments, and then I'm finding myself without a job, or I have a job, but it's sweat equity, so there's no paychecks coming in. So it's some of those real estate investments you're hoping that they'll sell, and they finally do, and so it is risky of having no money, and then hopefully they come in later on. So
Usually that happens, right? Yeah. One question left if anybody wants. If not, I think that's a good one to wrap up on. Cool. Well, thanks guys, appreciate it. A lot of good info. Yeah. Give them a hand. Well, that was amazing. Such really good guys doing really good things, and I learned a lot today. So I want to thank everybody again for coming. Thanks again to these guys for the knowledge they shared today and the stories, and for the Be More Complex for allowing us to do it here. It's awesome. Reminder, the next one, and you'll see it all over social media, but December 9th will be the next one here, same time, 9 o'clock. We plan on doing this once a month, and we hope that you guys keep coming. So thanks, guys.
You want to do it here?
Yeah, that's good. I guess I should have verified.
Well, I'm just going to check with Jermaine. Hey, Jermaine, we good to do it here every month?
I assume before I.
Yeah, well, I like it. I like it.
That works too sometimes again.
I thought so.
What's up, dude? Tell me what's going on. What's up, dude? Tony. You're looking at that one. Just got a picture. It's good stuff, Yeah, just to have the energy. And like we bought 15 people last time, and I was first, and it's this. So ideas spread, maybe 20, half, a third of this maybe. Yeah. Yeah, so if their employees are. Took me a while to figure out what that company was even doing.
Twisted Mule Cafe, because I had helped them with their website and stuff. And they wanted to be here as like and so I was working closely with Wayne. So I was interviewing for a like this, and I haven't been back since.
Oh, go walk around. Yeah, always a bubbling fire.
Yeah, I had no idea.
It's amazing.
It is.
And this place is hopping in the evening. It's like crazy. Like the vision this guy has. This is a cool piece of real estate. Like really cool. And obviously he doesn't even do it for profit. It's insane.
But most nonprofits.
Yeah, but they can still make that $500,000 as CEO.
Exactly.
There's nonprofit and not for-profit. Nonprofit just means nothing left over at the end of the year. You gotta show it.
I thought it was going to be more similar to
Oh, okay.
that I enjoy.
I don't know. So this is actually like franchise.
Right, yeah.
Like nationwide.
Yeah,
worldwide.
worldwide, yeah.
And so they just kind of said we're bringing this to Southern Utah.